To take a look at something called coordinate geometry, or at least carry on looking at it. We've already seen how to draw a Cartesian graph and how to look for coordinates on it. But what are the sorts of things that we can find out from coordinates? Well, one thing is to be able to calculate the midpoint of 2 points on a graph. So when we're given two sets of coordinates, what is the point that is halfway between these 2 points? How do we calculate it? Well, for instance, if I'm given the coordinates 8, 2 and minus 4, 3, I can work out the coordinate between the two. It's quite simple technique. All I've got to do is add the two x, find the difference, between the two x coordinates by deducting the smaller one from the larger one. In this case, 8 minus 4 is 12. Then divide that number by 2 to give me 6 and add it on to the lower value. So minus 4 add 6 is 2. So the midpoint I'm going to use for the first x is, the x's of the midpoint is going to be 2. Going to do the same with the y. So I deduct the smaller number from the larger number to give me 1. I divide the number by 2, which is a half, and then add it on to the smaller value of the y coordinates to give me 2.5. And so there I have the two coordinates of the midpoint, 2, 2.5. So just add the x's together, divide by 2. Take away the smaller x from the larger one, divide the answer by 2 and add it onto the smaller one. Do the same to the y, and there you've got your x and your y coordinate of the midpoint. What do we do then if we want to calculate the distance between 2 points? Well, here's two examples where we've got x is 3 and y is 2, and x is 3 and y is 6, which is a fairly simple way to work out the distance in these cases because the x coordinates are both the same. And keep in mind that the same principle would be held if both the y axes are the same. Because the x-axis is the same, the x-coordinate I should say, then all we've got to do is find the difference between the y's, and we've got the difference. So in this case, 6 take away 2, the difference between the 2 points, or the distance between the 2 points, is 4. Obviously, if the y's were the same, then we'd find the difference between the x's. What happens then when we've got two coordinates? Here, example where the y's are the same, I'm just going to work out the difference between the two x's. The distance is 5. But then we come to what happens if the x and the y coordinates aren't the same. We can use a principle called Pythagoras' theorem. And with Pythagoras' theorem, we'll actually do it to a great amount in algebra. But you can consider what we call a right angle triangle being formed with the 2 points 7, 12 and 4, 8 involved. So if this point or this corner of the triangle was 7, 12 and this one here was 4, 8, I can actually form a right angle triangle by here. Now from this I can work out that the value here, the distance by here, is 4. Because if the line goes straight across from this point 4, 8, y is going to stay the same. So when you get over to here, the coordinate must be, the y coordinate must be an 8. 12 take away is 4. As we've seen up by here, the difference in y. Similarly, when I go straight downwards from the point up by here, the x coordinate is staying the same. So getting to the bottom would be a value of 7. So we've got coordinates 7, 8. And the difference between the 7 here and the 4 here is 3. So I know that the length, the distance from this point up to here down to here is 4. And the distance from this point by here across to here is 3. So I've actually got two sides to this right angle triangle. And I just need to find the last length of the side here. And provided I've got those two other sides, I can actually do that using, as I said, Pythagoras' theorem. And we're not going to go into Pythagoras' theorem in big depth, but basically to work out that distance between the 2 points, we find the square root of the other 2 sides squared and added together. So in this case, one of the sides is 4, so we square it. The other side is 3, we square it, add the 2 results together, and then square root the whole thing. And that will actually tell me the distance between those 2 points. So in this case, 4 squared is 16 and 3 squared is 9. Adding 16 to 9 gives me 25. And the square root of 25 is 5. So the distance from this point to this point is 5. So for the moment, just remember that to find that missing value, we simply find the squares of the other 2 sides, add them together and square root the whole thing. But we will see how that comes about a little bit more clearly when we study Pythagoras' theorem much later on in trigonometry. So if you're finding the difference between 2 points and the x-axis are the same or the y-axis is the same, all you've got to do is work out the difference in the other coordinate. If you're finding the distance between 2 points where the x coordinate or the y coordinate isn't the same, deduct the x-axis to find the length of one of the sides, deduct the y coordinates, find the difference between the y coordinates to find the distance of the other side, and then work out the square root of the squares of the other 2 sides added together, and then you'll have the distance between the 2 points.